The Senate will come to order. Please welcome Senator King back to the chamber before we say the pledge. Come on, people, give it up. He promised to offer no amendments today. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would everybody on the floor and in the gallery please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Majors, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Balmer, Baumgardner, Carroll, Cook, Crowder, Donovan, Garcia, Grantham, Guzman, Heath, Hill, Hodge, Holbert, John, Johnston, Jones, Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lundberg, Marble, Martinez-Umenick, Merrifield, Neville, Neville, Newell, Newell, Roberts, Scheffel, Scott, Sonnenberg, Stedman, Todd, Ulibarri, Woods. Mr. President.
Here. 35 present, nobody's absent, nobody excused. We have a quorum. Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the reading of the Journal of January 23rd be dispensed with and the Journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. Are there any no votes? Seeing none, that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
January 26, 2015, correctly printed Senate Bills 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, and 112. Correctly engrossed Senate Bills 41 and 98, Senate Joint Resolution 5.
Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 113 by Senator Aguilar and Representative Escar concerning the continuation of the regulation of athletic trainers by the Department of Regulatory Agencies in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2014 Sunset Report issued by the Department of Regulatory Agencies, which include repealing the Athletic Trainer Practice Act and restoring the exemption in the Medical Practice Act for qualified athletic trainers to provide athletic training services.
Senate Bill 113, Business, Labor, and Technology.
Senate Bill 114 by Senator Crowder concerning restrictions on the ability of a county government to exercise its eminent domain powers for the acquisition of open space.
Senate Bill 114, Local Government.
Senate Bill 115 by Senator Hill and Representative Pabon concerning the sunset review of the medical marijuana programs.
Senate Bill 115, Finance.
Senate Bill 116 by Senator Stedman and Representative Garnett concerning needle stick prevention.
Senate Bill 116, Judiciary.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Lambert and Representative Joshi concerning prohibiting discrimination in public financing of institutions of higher education.
Senate Bill 117, Education.
Senate Bill 118 by Senator Merrifield concerning the state income tax deductions for contributions to and distributions of investment earnings from the qualified state tuition program established by College Invest.
Senate Bill 118, Finance.
Senate Bill 119 by Senator Sonnenberg and Representative Becker Kay concerning continuation of the regulation of pesticide applicators by the Department of Agriculture and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations of the 2014 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Senate Bill 119, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy.
Senate Bill 120 by Senator Jones and Representative Winter concerning a requirement that each provider of retail electric service in Colorado develop an electric grid modernization plan.
Senate Bill 120, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy.
Senate Bill 121 by Senator Crowder concerning the eligibility for financing provided by the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority of a public water system that is not owned by a governmental agency.
Senate Bill 121, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy.
Senate Bill 122 by Senator Newell and Representative Moreno concerning the continuation of the regulation of massage parlors and in connection therewith repealing the regulation of massage parlors.
Senate Bill 122, Business, Labor, and Technology.
Senate Bill 123 by Senator Crowder and Representative Primavera concerning the ability of a person eligible for prescription drug benefits under a health benefit plan to choose the pharmacy at which to fill a prescription drug order for certain medications.
Senate Bill 123, Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 124 by Senator Merrifield and Representative Lee concerning the use of evidence-based practices in response to technical violations of parole.
Senate Bill 124, Judiciary.
Senate Bill 125 by Senator Stedman concerning a statewide registry of advance directives.
Senate Bill 125, State Veterans and Military Affairs.
Senate Bill 126 by Senators Cook and Johnston concerning medical tests for victims of crimes of assault.
Senate Bill 126, Judiciary. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Majors, would you please read the titles of the third reading of bills, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 41 by Senator Holbert and Representative Van Winkle concerning a requirement that local governments regulate amateur radio communications in accordance with an existing federal preemption established by the Federal Communications Commission. Senate Bill 98 by Senator Stedman and Representative Young concerning the codification of certain phrases previously included in appropriation clauses.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 41 and Senate Bill 98.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 1541 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Grantham, Senator Crowder, Senator Cook, Senator Scott, Senator Woods. Co-sponsors. Senator Scheffel. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 1598 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Lambert. Second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Balmer. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee, or the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
The motion before the body is that the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the Senate will be resolved in the Committee of the Whole. Senator Baumgartner will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. The Colt rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to all the bill listed on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 53 by Senator Aguilar and Representatives McCain and Lontaine concerning the ability to furnish a supply of emergency drugs for purposes of treating individuals who may experience an opiate-related drug overdose event.
Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the adoption of all the bills on general order, second reading of bills consent calendar and the associated committee reports, which includes Senate Bill 53. 3 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion to any of the committee reports? The motion before the body is the adoption of the reports to all the bills on the general orders. Second reading of consent calendar. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reports are adopted. Is there any discussion to any of the bills listed on the general orders consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the bills on the general orders second reading of bills consent calendar. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come back to order. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
January 26, 2015, Mr. President, your committee of the whole Big report is under consideration of the following attached bill being second reading thereof makes following recommendation thereon. Senate Bill 53 is amended, passed on second reading in order to gross place on the counter for third reading and final passage.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion before us is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, that is adopted. Senate Bill 15-053 as amended passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Second reading of bills. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills calendar.
The motion before us is to resolve into the committee of the whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. We will now stand as the committee of the whole, and Senator Baumgartner will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 24?
Senate Bill 24 by Senators Sonnenberg and John and Representative Wright concerning updates to the local government audit law to maintain consistency with audit standards.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 24 and ask for your yes vote.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 24? Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You are not getting away with that, sir. Just like to address a couple things on this bill, and thank you for the fine explanation of what the bill did, Senator from the 1st Senate District. When we look at this bill and what I think you are trying to do, since I'll try to explain it for you, is raise this threshold on the audit standards from, I believe it's 500,000 up to 750,000, essentially exempting those that are between that $500,000 and $750,000 threshold. These are small communities usually that have trouble paying for audits, and I understand where this bill is coming from and trying to save taxpayer dollars on these small communities and usually rural communities. Here is the other side of that coin. I actually have communities that don't like the threshold at all, and these are tiny, tiny communities, because it actually does away with the audit. It does away with transparency to some extent for some of these small communities. Even though audits are expensive, it still is taking away just a little bit more transparency in my mind for some of these smaller communities that need those audits. They need to be able to have that level of openness in their government, even if it is just a tiny little municipality or a tiny little rural town. This isn't the prevalent thing that's going on in Colorado as far as the rural communities. It is very limited where some of these towns are in this situation where they would rather have the audit than saving the money that it would cost. But I would caution us, at least, and for myself, I won't be able to support this bill just because of those few communities, especially in rural Colorado, that won't be able to have these audits, and now we're just raising that threshold even higher for some of the other smaller communities and taking away the ability of the taxpayers to audit their local governments. And I would thank you for your ear this morning.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the question here and the reason for the bill is indeed, and I need to clarify that it doesn't exempt them from an audit. What the bill does is says you can apply for an exemption from an audit. And what we have in many of the rural communities, not necessarily the small towns as such, but maybe a taxing district, a fire district, an irrigation district, something like that, that has revenues and expenditures of maybe just over that $100,000 threshold. When we meet that threshold, we can apply for an exemption so we don't have to go through the regular state audit, although we still continue to do our own internal audits as required by the board of directors or by those members as part of that taxing district. If we do two and duplicate that process for such a small level of financial responsibility, that is what we're trying to address here. And as audits get more expensive, as the ability to do business becomes more expensive, it seemed appropriate to move that threshold from $500,000 to $750,000, which won't have a huge impact, but it will impact just a handful that may again apply for an exemption, not necessarily receive that exemption. That's why I asked for a yes vote. Thank you.
Senator Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a member of the Audit Committee, Legislative Audit Committee, and we considered this bill, and it is a Audit Committee bill and we want to thank the sponsors for bringing it. And basically, we see it as we trust our communities, we trust our smaller communities, especially those in the rural areas, to to continue their good business practices. They continue to have their own reports. Every time their council meets, there's finance reports, there's reports that do some of the same things as the audit would do. They could also, would also always have their books available for those who might be questioning them. We feel like it kind of I guess, excuse me, equals the playing field with these communities. When you think of the cost of the audit and so forth and so on, we think it gives them an opportunity to use their money in ways that help their communities reach their goal. And so The Audit Committee really reviews these very seriously. As you well know, we look at it from every aspect and felt unanimously that this was a good way to support the smaller communities. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 24? Senator Grantham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And going back to previous comments on, I see from the fiscal note that this would increase number of applications from roughly 1,100 up to for another 50 or 60 applications. Curious if we know the number of how many of these applications are ever turned down. Because in effect, I'm wondering what the criteria is for turning these down. I'm wondering if it's just a rubber stamp. If the increase, the raising of the threshold is simply just an automatically adding its 50 or 60 applications into the audit process, or if there is an actual statistics of how many are turned down. Regardless, we're still opening up that many more districts for the potential for less openness, and I'd ask for a no vote.
Senator John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't have the exact number. I apologize, but I certainly will request that information for you. The one thing that I want to reiterate, and the reason the Audit Committee decided to move forward with this, is it does clearly say it is so that they can apply for an exemption. It doesn't mean they're automatically exempted. They can apply for an exemption from the audit, and that this would probably and is anticipated to increase that amount by 50 or 60 applicants. So it's to be able to request an exemption. It's not just a guaranteed automatic. With that, I ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Senator Yeelberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the bill sponsors. I understand I voted for this bill in committee and that this is a request for an exemption, and just want to know if there's any potential for public comment during the waiver process. So if there is a concern about any financial misdoing or wrongdoing, that the public would be able to weigh into that waiver process. I just am not familiar with that process, so I would just want to make sure that if there is an issue that is raised, that we would be able to have the public raise a concern.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 24? Seeing none. The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 24. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 24 is passed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 52?
Senate Bill 52 by Senator Crowder concerning the approval of benefits for employees of the Colorado Health Benefit Exchange by the Legislative Health Benefit Exchange Implementation
Senator
Review
Crowder.
Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move Senate Bill 52 forward, as well as the committee report.
To the Health and Human Services Committee report. Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was heard on Health and Human Services. Actually, it was passed unanimously, and they felt that it should be, the situation that we're discussing should be brought before the floor for discussion, and I had no problem with that. But I think this committee report somewhat stands on its own.
To the bill. Any further discussion on the committee report? Senator Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator from Southeast. No, but I'm not allowed to say that. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I serve, as most of you know, on Health and Human Services, and this was not unanimous. And for me, one of the reasons that I voted against this was because I thought that it was onerous when it came to digging deep from an HR perspective. When you're on a board and you are giving advice or you're giving approval to hiring a CEO, for instance, that's one thing. When you're looking at operational plans and strategies, that's one thing. But when you're diving into salaries and bonuses, then I believe that from an HR perspective, that's just inappropriate. And particularly, I don't want it to set a precedence because of the enterprise status of Colorado for Connect for Health Colorado. And I don't want that to get us into trouble. So I shared this already with the senator. I'm so sorry I'm voting no, but I did vote no.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I rise in support of the bill, and the reason I do is I spent quite a bit of time on the Legislative Oversight Committee, and I felt like we had no power whatsoever. So I think this is a very significant effort.
Senator Roberts, you're to the committee report.
Sorry?
We're on the committee report.
Sure. I mean, this is review and approve any bonus.
Okay, thank you.
So I would say that I think the committee of the report committee, I think this would be an awesome amendment to an awesome bill. And I support both.
Any further discussion? Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I just wanted to point out that we're talking about the committee report right now, where we actually narrowed the scope of the bill to focus only on bonuses. And Senator Crowder is correct, we did pass that unanimously.
Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. The committee report passed. Senator Crowder to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I brought this forward. Make no mistake, there's some thought out there that this has something to do with the health exchange, and it doesn't. This is about business practices within the state of Colorado. This is about how we as legislators, who are guardians of the purse strings of the financial end of this, need to take a stand on this. You know, the only correlation to the health exchange is the bonus is tied to this. You know, what we had was a situation where we had a director whose salary exceeded $190,000, third highest paid director in all the 50 states of the health exchange, but yet there was only 2 states that did a worse job than the state of Colorado. And for that reason and many others, I did not feel that this is a time to be given bonuses on situations where the productivity of what she was doing was in accordance. So that's why I amended my bill to a bonus, but I do not see the problem with this going before another set of eyes, and that's the Colorado Health Benefit Exchange Committee. And I think that we should have some oversight in all of these workings. And I think there's several other items out there we'll be returning with, but I think this is the first one. But to have a goal of 61,000 signups and only reach 9,980 or 15% and give that type of bonus of $14,000, in my opinion, is a very poor business practice. And it should, I'm not saying abolish it, but I'm saying, we need to have another set of eyes to look at this. So, for that and many other reasons, I would ask for your support on this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that one of the most frustrating things I've had all interim, and it got to an increasingly higher and higher pitch through the fall and into the winter as deadlines under the exchange came up, was constituents from across my district who could not get any good information, could not get coverage through the exchange, and were more and more frightened as each day went by to this day, I have constituents who are unable to meet the deadlines that are imposed upon them. They're concerned about the penalties. And I think, again, that one of the challenges we've had is what was mentioned earlier. The enterprise status of the exchange has largely left it untouchable to us in the legislature. So the power of the purse and weighing in on these bonuses for the review committee will give it more power, but also more accountability to make sure that people who are ready, willing, and able to use the exchange actually get the coverage and don't get penalized, let alone so frustrated from many hours spent on the telephone trying to sort this out. So there are a lot of problems, I think, that we have with the implementation of the exchange, and most certainly the review committee should be looking at compensation and bonus packages.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I want to remind you that the exchange was set up deliberately to not be part of our state government, and that was something that our business communities had wanted. All of the 5 major chambers of commerces had supported the legislation that created the exchange, and they were concerned about it being within government. I agree that the performance of the exchange has not been what we would want, but we need to think about the historic nature of what's happening here. The exchange has the task of actually finding out from people who would like in advance tax credits, what their income is and what tax credits they might be eligible for. If you would like to just purchase your insurance and get your tax credit back when you file your taxes the next year, you don't have to go through the painful process that is slowing people up right now. But what we're trying to do is in real time figure out, first of all, if you qualify for Medicaid, you're not eligible for tax credits, and I think that's an issue we can talk about in our state, whether we want to change that or not. But the first thing that needs to happen is that you need to be determined eligible or ineligible for Medicaid. And unfortunately, that means you go into CBMS. And if that doesn't put dread in your heart, you don't know about CBMS. But that's sort of the first line in which our exchange has been running into trouble. After they're determined not eligible for credit, in order to qualify for a premium tax credit, they need to then go into a federal computer base in which their income is verified and their tax credit is determined. And so a lot of the issues our exchange has had with giving timely and good customer service has been because, as you know, the federal exchange has been overwhelmed because most states did not choose to set up their own exchange, and this is a brand new process. Now, I don't in any way mean to say that I think we're giving great care on our exchange. I absolutely don't. But I think that the exchange is doing something pretty historic, and that the people who worked on this, we were one of the few states who were able to get this together and up and running in a timely fashion. And based on communications I've had with their staff, I know they worked on this 24/7. Regardless, as a member of our state government, I feel like I would be going beyond my reach to be interfering in this business that our business community asked that we set up separate from state government. And so that's why I was a no on the bill. Thank you.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the bill as amended, as I understand this, we're talking about bonuses for employees. And my concern is when we've got something, whether it's an enterprise or directly a state agency, bonuses typically are associated with very good job done. And despite I have no quarrel that people have put a tremendous amount of effort into it, but it is not a good job done. When I have constituents, and it's not a partisan issue, I hear from constituents across my district with complete exasperation about having spent so many hours, and I personally have spent so many hours. My aide, since session has started, has already spent many hours trying to sort out people getting coverage through the exchange. So what I'm saying is I think Senator Crowder's bill is completely appropriate because this has not been a job well done in terms of effectiveness in implementation. Does it mean people are approaching this without best of intentions? No, that's not the case. But in fact, the legislative committee has virtually no ability to reach in and affect the progress in the implementation. This is a small step in that direction, so I urge an aye vote.
Senator Humanick.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I voted in favor of this in committee, and the reason that I did was because I think there does need to be some oversight. This exchange not only gets federal money, but it also gets state money, and so I do think that this is something that is appropriate. I've never received a bonus if I have not performed exceptionally at a job, and I think there needs to be more transparency and some oversight on this, so I would urge you to support this bill.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I did support this bill out of committee and briefly would like to explain why. The statement was made earlier that there are many citizens who have been exasperated by the process. Well, I've been on the Legislative Oversight Review Committee for the Health Exchange since its inception nearly 4 years ago, and I will tell you I continue to be exasperated by the process from my perspective of trying to understand and concur with the process that they have engaged upon. I've made it no secret that I don't think it's a good idea to be there, but if it is there, and if it is handling hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars, we're up over 200, I think it's $23 million they've collected, and they've spent over $170 million to roll this out to this point, and still we hear a great deal of complaint and a lot of questions. I supported this because I believe there is a need for greater accountability, and this bill may not be perfect, but it is heading in the right direction, and I urge the body to support the bill and send the message back to the exchange that better is expected.
Further discussion. Senator Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't want to talk about the exchange. I think we all have some concerns. But the issue to me is the precedent we're setting here. As you know, we established a number of our universities as enterprise status. And I guess I don't want us to be in the position of getting in and evaluating salaries and so forth of our coaches. Is an 8-6 season better than a 9-4 or whatever it is? I just think where we're going with this is not the right place to go. So for me, my no vote has nothing to do with the concern we have about exchanges, but it has everything to do with us involving ourselves in enterprises, which I don't think is where we ought to be.
Further discussion. Senator Aguilar.
Thank you. And members, just for your information, two more things. Last year, Colorado citizens received $191 million in advance premium tax credits to help them buy insurance. This year to date, they've received $170 million in advance premium tax credits to help them purchase insurance. And after this year, there will no longer be federal and state direct funds into the exchange. And so this will come into effect after our funds have been expended. Thank you.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will I rise one more time because I have constituents who are delaying health care and can't get prescriptions renewed. While I appreciate that the good senator from Boulder's point about the precedent, we have already inserted state government so deeply into health insurance through this exchange. I think they're apples and oranges. And because we have done that, and we make ourselves the portal for our not just getting insurance, but access to care, we have inserted state government into that. I think we have a heightened sense of responsibility, which again, to date, having sat on that oversight committee, I felt we had no ability to affect we were listening. We had no proactive role to address some of the things that we were concerned about despite the vast amount of money that was going into this exchange. And now we've learned that the exchange in its implementation is not working well, not just little kinks in the system, but again, where my constituents are hung out to dry, at least that's their perception. delaying care and not able to get prescriptions renewed. So it is not a minor matter, but it is a major matter that, again, the state legislature put themselves right in the middle of. Again, urge an aye vote.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do want to say again, if any of your constituents are having issues, please reach out to the exchange. I had a gentleman reach out to me 3 days before the end of the year because he was having trouble getting a plan and he needed his medications, and they were able to get him on within 48 hours. So they are responsive. If you have people having issues, please do reach out to the exchange. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I appreciate all my colleagues coming up and speaking for and against this, but I would reiterate, this is not so much about the health exchange, but I will tell you that, you know, I heard that this is not the right place to go or the right direction. This is exactly where we need to go when we see inefficiency of state government. I do believe there is a certain amount of state revenue involved in the exchange, albeit that it's not very much. I think that we need to be, you know, we need to have the transparency. We need to have the, you know, anytime there's state money is involved, we need to oversee it and be very, very transparent to our constituents. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would just conclude my statements on this and ask for an aye vote and continue on.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 52. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The bill is passed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title to Senate Bill 19?
Senate Bill 19 by Senator Sonnenberg and John and Representative Nordberg concerning the authority of the state auditor to conduct a performance audit of the Colorado Health Benefit Exchange.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 19 in the committee report on Health and Human Services.
To the Health and Human Services Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That amendment put on in that committee dealt with making sure that we had the opportunity to go outside of the exchange to those agencies in which they are intertwined with to make sure that we have all the information we need for an audit. I'd ask for a yes vote.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is passed. Senator Sonnenberg to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And what this bill does, and it's an audit committee bill, we had a preliminary audit against the exchange which showed that they need some help. As we heard earlier on one of the previous bills, that there are challenges with creating a new program and need some direction. So the state auditor and those on the audit committee have seen an opportunity to try and give them the help they need to allow an audit to look at those processes and then those systems that they have to make sure that the exchange itself indeed does what it needs to do and is able to put those policies in place to address those issues that have been brought up. And so I would ask for a yes vote on the bill.
Senator John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the other thing that I would like to tell the body is that currently, under state law, we don't have the ability to do a complete and full audit. So it is through this legislation that we really need to pass so that they can look at the whole piece in a comprehensive manner, which is why we brought in the ability for them to work also with the departments that actually have connections to going through this process. So this is really just added transparency of a performance audit that will be able to enhance what the Colorado Health Exchange is able to do. With that, I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 19. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, the bill is passed. Mr. Majors, would you please read the title? I'm done, okay. It's him. Senator Sheffel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion for the committee to rise and report. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The committee shall rise and report.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Majors, would you please read the report?
January 26, 2015, Mr. President, your committee of the whole basic report has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 24, Senate Bill 52 is amended, Senate Bill 19 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered and grow is placed on the counter for third reading and final passage.
The motion before Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the report.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, that is adopted. Senate Bill 1524, Senate Bill 1552 as amended, Senate Bill 1519 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered and engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Message from the House.
January 26, 2015, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted the Advisory Statutes House Bills 1010, 1028, 1071. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted the Advisory Statutes House Bill 1055 as amended, House Bill 1039 as amended.
Colleagues, would you take a moment to help me welcome Senator Harvey back to the chamber? Could we have the ensemble? Does anybody remember this? Senator Lundberg, get your group. Solo. Solo. The Senate choir shall gather at the microphone.
What are we doing? Ensemble. I thought, oh, what are we
Senator Neville, where are you?
No, it's nice to be part of your ensemble. So whose birthday is it? Good.
So whose birthday is it?
Senator Merrifield, welcome back to the choir. It's been a long time since I heard you sing.
Now, are you a alto? Oh. So what should we say, Senator Neville or Tim?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Neville. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Announcements. Senator Jean.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just a reminder, you did receive on your desk this last week that there's a CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate Reception for all of the legislators today at noon at the Child Advocates Center at 1420 Ogden. Lunch will be provided, and we would love to have all of you.
Further announcements. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I wanted to bring to your attention an announcement that the President of the United States made on January 26, 1915. That's President Woodrow Wilson officially declared the Rocky Mountain National Park to be in existence. So today is the 100th anniversary for the park, and I know several members of this body have a portion of the park in their district, and that includes myself with the gateway to the park up via Estes Park, and certainly let it fly from there. So thank you very much for my moment, Mr. President.
I will.
Senator Heath.
Thank you, sir, and asking me for my own moment of personal privilege on the same subject, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. Saturday night, I had the privilege of attending an event in Boulder celebrating the 100th anniversary that the Park Service put on. It was nothing short of spectacular. They have 3 films that I think will be available for all of us to see at one time or another, and I would just encourage everybody that has an opportunity to view those. It takes the whole park history for the 100 years and brings it up to date, and they did a magnificent job with it.
Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to add my comments to my colleagues here. Rocky Mountain National Park is something that's very connected to my district as well. Last year, I believe, I didn't have the accurate number, it was well over 3 million people went through the park, visited that park. So just the economic impact of the state alone, that people travel back and forth between like Estes Park and Grand Lake, Colorado, and other towns on both sides is very important. And again, happy birthday, Rocky Mountain National Park.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've mentioned this before at the mic, but I am particularly happy that Rocky Mountain National Park exists because, but for the job they offered me as a seasonal park ranger in 1981, I might not have been a Colorado resident. So happy birthday to Rocky Mountain National Park.
That was 1981, right? No, okay. Senator Sonnenberg? No. Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We purchased a steer at the National Western Junior Livestock Auction. Thank you. The other evening. Competition was stiff. We did raise almost enough money. It was taken care of, and we did buy a steer for the General Assembly.
Senator Donovan.
We were able to purchase a very handsome animal. It was the first place steer from a young man out on the Eastern Plains who I talked to afterwards, and his name is escaping me. I apologize for that, but he is going to put it directly towards his college tuition as well as hopefully help out his younger sister who helped him raise. It was a wonderful family and a great night, and I think it was the most that the General Assembly has ever been able to put towards a scholarship fund. So well done to the chambers. Thank you for all your support. Thank you.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President, and you should be commended. We indeed spent $9,250, which is the most we've ever spent on an animal at the stock show. So thank you for your help. Thank you for your support. And we are working as you sit here to try and get that young gentleman in the Senate chamber, so you will have an opportunity to meet him in the near future. So anyhow, thank you.
Further announcements. Majority Leader Scheffel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, just a reminder, the Candy Fund is up and running, and candy and treats are beginning to appear on the desk up here, but we are still woefully short on participation and therefore funds. It's running roughly equal between the two sides. Can't be totally equal because it's an odd number. But encourage you all to participate on that. See Cindy, I think the suggested donation this year is $30 per member. Also of importance, please take a note, especially to those of you serving on the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 126 by Senators Cook and Johnson. It was read over the desk this morning and assigned to Judiciary Committee. That will be heard tomorrow. Be heard tomorrow after your joint judiciary meeting upon adjournment. Senate Bill 126, you may recall this. It's kind of running in tandem with Senator Cook's Senate Bill 5, and so I encourage you to read that bill and be prepared to act upon that tomorrow. Having no other announcements, move the Senate adjourn to 9 a.m. Tuesday, January 27th.
You have heard the motion that the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. Tuesday, January 27th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate is adjourned until Tuesday, 9 a.m., January 27th.